call him Joe?
I did, because I've got Joe on my mind.
Got Joe on your mind.
I do. I think we should talk to Joe.
Okay. Well,
All right.
We can talk to Joe.
Good, good. All right. Joe in Virginia, you're live with Eric and V. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Eric. Ivy, how are you?
Doing good.
Good. Happy to be talking to you.
Yeah, it's good. You guys are doing a good job. I appreciate your cordial conversations.
Well, thank you.
Cheers.
Better than your counterparts at.
We don't want to sling mud. If we're going to do our best to be examples of what the kind of conversation we want to see, we can't include slinging mud.
You don't like slinging mud. I like slinging mud.
Well, okay. Anyway,
To each
Joe,
their own.
Yes, you wanted. It says
Okay.
you are a religious caller. It is not the first time that you've called, and you want to
Yeah, we
talk about.
talked once.
Yeah, you want to talk about the cosmological
once.
argument.
Yeah, I'll just give you.
Yeah.
Oh, first I wanted to ask you a question. When is your debate with Dean?
My debate with Dean is in February in Ohio.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it. If I can get some promotional materials, I'll start posting it out on social media. But if you're in Ohio and I think it's at Ohio State University.
Yep, in Columbus.
Yeah. If you're not busy in February, you should come and say hi.
Is it going to be on YouTube?
I would like to. Part of my things that I requested as in terms of going and doing the debate is that we get a copy of it. I don't know where we would post it. Might post it on my channel, but my channel's
mirror it
kind
on
of
both.
defunct.
Yeah.
So
We'll find a way to get it to people.
Yeah, but Joe,
Yeah. I'll watch it.
as a religious person, that means a lot. So you are.
Well, I'm not.
I'm sorry.
a theist, but I'm not religious.
Got it. Got
Okay.
it.
I made an assumption. So
All right.
So why don't you present the cosmological argument, and then let's talk about it.
Okay, this is just my version, which I kind of made up for. It's related to the other cosmological arguments, but I'll
Okay.
just give it to you. Do you want me to give you all the premises, or do you want it one at a time?
Joe, something happened. There's a lot of clicking all of a sudden, and I don't know. It almost makes me think that you're all of a sudden moved to near power lines, or that you're popping.
Like a pen. It sounds like someone's like popping a pen open and closed.
Maybe there's a pen. I have a pen near me, so.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
called it. Yes, we're
Nice.
good.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, the first premise is the universe exists.
Okay.
You want me to go to number 2, 3? Okay. You want
Yeah.
to do the whole thing, or just one at a time?
I appreciate the one at a time. We're with you so far. The universe exists.
Okay, and I guess we'll call the universe all of space-time reality, space-time matter, whatever,
Okay.
everything.
Okay.
Okay, number 2 would be either the universe is infinite into the past and has always existed, or it had a or is finite into the past and had a beginning.
I'm having trouble thinking of what a third option would be. That
Yeah.
sounds like a dichotomy.
It sounds
Either it had a
correct.
beginning or it didn't, which is right
Okay.
along with the cosmological argument. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess it's either it's always existed or it had a beginning and began to exist. So,
okay.
all right. So then number 3 would be the universe cannot be infinite into the past. I can give you the reasons for that, but the universe cannot be infinite into the past for 2 reasons: because actual infinites do not exist, and it is impossible to traverse an infinite.
Okay.
Well, that's the one we're probably going to get stuck on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
that's the one.
So do you want the arguments against that specific position, or would you rather us skip ahead and tell you why, even if that was true, it has nothing, it doesn't get us any closer to a God belief?
Okay, my thing doesn't even end with God. It just if you disagree with this, then we can talk about it. If you agree with it, then we can go on. I don't know. Do you want to think about it, or talk about it?
I mean,
I can give you 2 reasons why
let's
it's impossible.
you know what? There are so many people who will get caught up on this beginning part. Not a lot of people get to see what happens afterward. So let's grant that the universe had a beginning for the sake of this conversation. Mind you, I am taking a step into uncomfortability here because I feel like I'm starting to talk out of my butt because that's not something that I know. But I'm willing to go with you. So what's the next part?
Okay, I mean, I can give. You want me to? Can I explain to you why it cannot be infinite into the past? Or
So here's the thing. For the call-in show format, I want to make sure that we have time for the next part. And if we get hung up on this one, I feel like that's all that this conversation is going to get to do.
okay, I mean, all right. If you don't want to talk about it, if you want to accept it, that's fine.
Yeah, just for the sake of argument. What's up?
Okay, so number 4 would be therefore the universe had a beginning.
Okay.
And this is kind of just the last one where I didn't end off with God. I just want, if the universe had a beginning, it cannot cause itself. Therefore, something that is not the universe must have caused the universe.
How do you know that?
Yeah, that's like everything else, granting what you are saying. So if we were to grant the third premise that the universe could not have been infinite, which, you know, some people would definitely agree with, then everything else seemed to follow really well up until that 5th one.
Yeah.
And that kind of pulled in some stuff that seems like a little bit out of left field. So can we dive into that one a little bit?
Sure. Which part do you disagree with?
Most of it. Let's start with creation. So can matter be created or destroyed? No, it can't.
It can't?
No, it can't. It can be converted. It can be converted. And we've definitely seen matter be rearranged into things that we've given different definitions to, but that creation of matter isn't something we've really observed. So if we don't have any evidence for that, then how can you make a claim that something like that happened? We don't have anything there to provide evidence for that. It's just a weird leap in logic.
Okay, so if you're going to say that matter cannot be created or destroyed, then you're saying it's eternal, right? Then the universe would always have existed. So you'd be disagreeing with my second premise.
Right.
The universe has always existed.
I'm saying I don't know. So let's say that so right now we're getting into hypotheticals. And if we're getting into the hypothetical of how does matter get created, since we have no idea, then who's to say that it didn't create itself? Who's to say it didn't voip into existence all on its own?
So you're granting me that the universe had a beginning, so that we'd say that that's matter, right?
I'm trying to so we can have this part of the conversation. I gave you a hypothetical where it's just as valid. It's just as valid when we're in that hypothetical space. That actually I think it's more valid because then we're not introducing agency. Like if you're saying that, you know, it had to be created by something outside of itself, you're talking about intent, you're talking about agency, you're talking about ability and capacity, right? You know, then you have these hypotheticals of God going down to the universe store, picking up the supplies and, you know, creating it. It's just this weird set of assumptions built on top of each other. It seems like Occam's razor would just say, okay, well, then it must have created itself.
No, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
no, what's up?
You know, I haven't mentioned God. I've just said if the universe had a beginning, something cannot cause itself. That's illogical.
So there's a difference between cause and creation in this context.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't say created. I just said cause.
You said the universe could not have created itself.
Okay. I think. Okay. Either way, let's just go back to cause then.
Okay.
The universe cannot cause itself.
Okay. How do you know that?
Because it's illogical for something to be able to cause itself. It would first. To cause yourself, you have to exist before you existed, which is not logical.
Which is amazing that you would then take an extra step into absolute not logical land to assume that there's something that can exist when there is no time or space, right? You have to have a universe to have time and space.
Yeah,
and matter.
that's kind of where this breaks down for me, Joe, is I agree that it feels really like counterintuitive to say the universe caused itself, right? Like that's like, wait, what? I don't think I would agree with that, but I don't know. But it feels weird. It doesn't feel intuitive. But it also doesn't feel intuitive to say that something could exist outside of the universe, especially if we're talking about the universe including space-time. So like we're kind of between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, it is.
Which is the cool part about this argument, because it puts up these concepts, all of which feel counterintuitive. So relying on intuition is not a good way to go about it.
Right.
Can I give you an analogy that would be kind of like similar to this, why something can't cause itself, and you see if you agree with this one?
Sure.
Let's say Mark Zuckerberg got the idea for Facebook from a message from Facebook. That's impossible, right?
Yes, that is impossible.
Okay.
Why would that be impossible?
Because you're putting the cart before the horse.
Because time and space exist, and in our understanding of space and time, that cannot happen.
Yeah, it's linear.
But the problem with talking about this in terms of, well, it doesn't make sense in our space-time, is that everything we're discussing is outside of that space-time, whether it's the universe creating itself or whether it's an entity outside of the universe causing it to exist. We're talking about non-space-time related concepts by saying, well, it doesn't make sense in the concept of space-time, you know?
Okay, I guess we can just agree to disagree. I would think.
So here's the thing, Joe. I want to know why you disagree, because I think we've got some really, really solid points that are convincing. So where are you not convinced?
Okay, can I make my point?
Yeah, go for it.
If the universe began to exist, which you granted me, maybe you don't believe that, but
yeah, we granted.
Saying I don't believe it's possible for something to cause itself.
Okay.
So if all of space-time matter came into existence, whatever the cause is has to be separate from whatever caused it.
So
things can't cause. As I said, I don't believe things can cause themselves. If you think that, then that's fine with you. But I personally don't.
It's not that we think that that's a thing that happens right now. We agree that within the confines of this universe, that doesn't seem to be the case, nor are things created out of nothing in this universe, right? Everything that is created has other components that already existed, just being reformulated into something new. So we have rules in this universe, it seems like, that we cannot break. But the problem is using that intuition about what happens in this universe to talk about something that may or may not have happened outside of the space-time rules that we abide by. So it's like saying, well, you can't king me because we're playing chess. And it's like, well, exactly. If we were playing a different game, we would have rules to go by, and it seems counterintuitive to apply the rules of one game to another. But that's kind of what we have to do in this scenario. We're not able to experience what the world, see? Like even the way we talk about it. What would the universe look like without space-time? We have no idea how that would even work.
Or is that even a thing? Like I'm under the impression that without those, there is nothing. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, the idea of something being outside of space-time is equivalent to being without entirely. So can something without matter, can a lack of matter create anything? Can you have agency without matter? I don't think so. Can you have agency and
why do you think that?
Because I don't think that you can make decisions without a brain.
Okay, well, you would have to demonstrate that, right? That's impossible?
Sure, absolutely. Ta-da, everything. Why don't you, the claim is, right, I said you can't make decisions without a brain. That's a positive claim. Cool. Working brains, making decisions. I feel like I have an abundance of evidence there. Where do you have evidence to the contrary?
I didn't make a claim. You did.
No, I gave you. I'm saying that our society is an abundance of evidence.
Of course, we only know the physical world, but that doesn't mean
Cool.
it's impossible for there's something to exist outside the physical world.
So the time to wonder that is when there's evidence. Do you have any kind of evidence?
My syllogism was supposed to be it, but you don't accept it. So
No, because the thing is, you're implying that there already exists a creator in that example. You talked about Mark Zuckerberg getting a message from Facebook, right? And so in this example, you have.
It was just to show that Facebook couldn't cause itself. Something had else. It may not be a perfect analogy,
but it also carried an implicit assumption that there was a creator there. You see where I'm going with this?
I think we should get away from the creator component just because clearly Joe doesn't want to go there. So we're putting words in his mouth. The thing is,
I'm just saying there has to be a cause that's separate from what is. So, like, I couldn't cause myself, right? Something separate from me had to cause me.
Right, but Joe, it still goes back to the problem that I have with this whole thing, which is I agree in the context of our universe that is accurate, but there is a whole other component to your argument that presupposes that there was something outside of the universe prior to it that did not play by those rules. So why are you using the rules of this universe to make your case for something that wouldn't have played by those rules anyway?
So we can keep this, I don't want to get too upset or whatever.
We're not upset. We're just engaged.
Yeah.
Okay. So you granted that the universe began. You granted me that, even if you don't believe it, that the universe began to exist.
Sure.
Okay. So would you agree that it either caused itself or something separate from it caused it?
In the absence of other possible options, I guess.
Okay, so
but
what do you think, V? Do you think those are the two options? Or
well, can I just put the caveat that I don't understand how cause can be a useful word in the conversation. I don't think you can cause something, or anything can be caused without time. It kind of leads us back to a nonsensical place, and so I think I'd better phrase it that if the universe began to exist,
okay,
we don't know why or how.
I mean, that's obvious. We don't. That's what we're trying to figure out, right?
Sure. It just takes the word cause out, because I don't even know if cause is useful. But V, you were gonna.
Yeah. I think we're not trying to pin you into like, well, what do you think caused it? Because I know that's not the purpose of this call, although if you want to call back and talk about that, that would probably be more useful in getting us to a theism claim. But what we are saying here is that when we talk about the word cause, like, our language is so tied into our understanding of time and cause and effect that we already implicitly link up our understanding of space-time in explaining how space-time came to be, which is tricky to do. And so for me, saying, well, did it get caused? That suggests cause and effect and a linear timeline, which didn't exist at the point we're talking about. So maybe, like, I think honestly, if we were to grant that the universe began to exist, whatever that means, then that would be where it has to stop before we start getting into hypotheticals. And it's fun to play around with them, but we really can't talk about what happened before time without using time-based language. It's one of those weird things that our brains just can't do.
That's true. You can't. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, when they talk about the column, you can't use any of this specific type of language.
Yeah.
If the universe began to exist, there was no time. And I think that's a legitimate, thing where Eric says, you can't do something if there's no time. But I think, at least when they make the argument for the cause, they think, or at least God or whoever, William and Craig, that simultaneously time started with the beginning of the universe, with the decision to create the universe.
Yeah. So at that point, though, you can point at uranium and say the uranium is deciding to radiate, or be radioactive, because cause does not necessarily entail decision making. All of those arguments that get brought up have this problem that you actually brought up that got highlighted in this call, and that is the assumption of a creator when what you're trying to prove is the creator. And by creator, I'm not necessarily talking about a god, but I'm talking about a cause, a first cause, right? If you're inferring that the first cause exists to back up your evidence of the first cause, then it's just circular.
Well, I mean, it's all right. You can disagree. I disagree with, your points, but yeah, we'll probably just go around in circles. So.
Fair enough. After this call, I'm going to listen back to this, and I'd like you to as well, because I really do want to know why you disagree. Is it because we're wrong, or is it because that entails letting go of the answer that you have?
No, because I think all my premises are, to me, correct. And, the same way you don't accept my arguments, I don't really accept your arguments.
Actually, no, it's not the same. Because if you had convincing evidence, I'm willing to change my mind. I wouldn't say I disagree, and then, I'd say, you know what? Let me think about that, and I'll get back to you. Because
can I say the same thing to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I do.
Joe, taking the time to think about that and getting back to us is exactly what we're hoping for in the show, or exactly what we're wanting to see. And it just makes you an exemplar of the kind of caller that we want to have.
Okay, I appreciate it. I appreciate the cordial conversation, and maybe we can talk about something again in the future.
Sounds
Absolutely.
good. Let us know what you think after you kind of mull it over.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye. Right? I mean, that is a really big assumption that I think a lot of people naturally make. It has nothing to do with that last caller, but it has everything to do with, when people say, you disagree for the same reasons I disagree, I'm not going to take your side for the same reason you're not going to take my side, carries this implicit assumption that the other person's just as dug in as you are. And the point is, we're trying not to dig ourselves in. We want to believe things for good reasons. And if you have a good reason, then we better be up for listening to it.
Right. And I mean, I find cosmological arguments specifically difficult to deal with, just because not only are we stuck in the language and the way that language has shaped our brains, but we also come up against a lot of things that we have to pretend we don't know what's coming next, right? So like every time someone comes to us with a cosmological argument, in order to be good interlocutors and actually have the conversation honestly and not jump 5 steps ahead, we have to pretend we don't know where it's going and be like, does the universe, did it have a beginning? That's so interesting, I wonder. And like, yeah, it's fun to talk about, but we know where it's going.
Yeah.
And the frustrating thing is that even if you came to us with a knockout, 100% rock solid argument for the beginning of the existence of the universe, then we would come up against things like the circularity of trying to prove a cause by arguing that the cause already exists. We would come up against the issue of, substance dualism and the concept of having a mind outside of a brain, outside of space-time. We would come up against the problem of, all right, even if we were to grant that a mind could exist outside of space-time, how on earth is that mind creating things out of nothing, right? Because like, even if we were to grant that my mind existed separately from my brain, I'm going to think really hard and just pop a butt unicorn into existence right here.
Not happening yet.
It does, because it doesn't happen. So there are so many things that are just baked into these arguments, especially when you get deeper into them, that I mean, I'm happy to have the conversation as many times as is necessary.
Especially because, with the format of the show, that's entirely what we're doing. But if somebody is going to say, hey, that was dishonest of you to keep diving in to a creator, I'll give you the last piece is, I call that God. Ta-da! There's the end as formulated by, it wasn't Aquinas, it was someone before Aquinas, right?
That's the ontological argument, is Anselm.
Oh, okay.
The cosmological argument was based in the Islamic Golden Age, actually.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's the Kalam.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
So yeah, it's interesting. We're fine to talk about it,
Yeah.
but when we jump 3 steps ahead, it's because we know where it's going.
Yeah.
And if it's not going there, let us know right away, because that would be something we haven't heard before.
Yeah. If the argument gets you to there had to be a first creator, you call it creator God. Ta-da! That's the hat trick. So.